There is a bank in Canada that is unlike any other bank in the world. In it are 14 rare musical instruments worth over $27 million, and only a chosen few get the privilege to play them. Created by some of the world's greatest craftsmen, these works of art are the coveted prizes of a remarkable competition. One which can elevate a musical career to new heights. Welcome to the Instrument Bank. Every 3 years, Canada's brightest young musicians travel from across the globe to Toronto to compete in the Canada Council for the Arts Musical Instrument Bank competition. 30 young virtuosos are vying for the chance to choose from 11 violins, 2 cellos, and 1 cello bow.
You grow so much with an instrument like that, and it just brings you to a new level. I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's true that something of that quality really makes your playing jump up levels.
Having something like a Strat, it gives you so much to work with. Like a violin of that name, it kind of gives you a standard of the type of musician that you'd be, I guess.
It has a tremendous influence. These instruments are going to be of great influence on the career development of these young artists and will help them, will enhance their chances of winning, performing, and succeeding and having long careers.
They end up having recording deals. They travel with these instruments around the world. Some of them end up winning outstanding, prestigious awards.
But it also helps these young artists to find themselves, to sculpt the music. These hybrid violins demand more of the artist than a lesser violin would. So it helps elevate their level of expertise and playability.
Ever since Yijai Suzanne Howe won the loan of the $4 million Del Gesù from the Musical Instrument Bank, her career has soared. She is the only musician to have won first place twice in a row in the history of the competition, a testament to her talent and dedication. First place is important. It gives the recipients first pick from all the instruments in the bank. Suzanne left her mark in music at an early age, as the first violinist in history to capture 3 gold medals at international violin competitions. Her greatest inspiration is her father.
My father is actually my teacher. He's a violinist himself. Both my parents are violinists, and they played in the Shanghai symphonies, and he was actually leading and directing 3 symphonies over there. Unfortunately, with the Cultural Revolution, they had quite a difficult time pursuing classical music because at that time it just wasn't permitted. But my father, very determined, he would board up all the windows and practice in a complete dark room, soundproofed room.
Nevertheless, he was caught playing his violin, detained and interrogated for his political views.
He was isolated, imprisoned for 33 days because he played music. And it was in a stairwell where he couldn't even stand up. And I mean, there's tremendous frustration and tremendous desire for justice. but then there's also on the flip side, there's the idea of hope.
Eager to start over, the Howes moved from Shanghai to Mississauga, Ontario, where Suzanne's career would begin.
But came to Canada, nobody knows me. I have to start over again. That could be very difficult. And I was wandering on the street. What is my future? What is my career? What am I supposed to do? So that time I totally get lost. So I thought, why not just train my daughter? Let's start again. That's how I started.
I feel a tremendous responsibility to my community, my country, my world, to give what I can through this instrument. And many times my parents went through such difficulties just to be able to play music, and as a result, I've never taken that for granted.
No individual chooses music as a profession. It chooses you. If you don't have the talent and the response that is beyond the rational, that is beyond the learned, that is visceral and uniquely intuitive, then you're never going to make it.
Having won the competition twice, Suzanne must finally return the precious violin.
Welcome back.
According to the rules, she cannot win the Del Jésus a third time and must part with an instrument that she has grown to love.
I think it's a very rare thing to find an instrument that so perfectly represents your voice. And so it'd be very difficult to give it up.
She has probably bonded with that violin more so than any other artist that I've met with Council's instruments. They're soulmates, they bond. They develop around your strengths and your weaknesses, and they support you when you're weak. There's a bonding that happens. And then when you separate those two, there's a readjustment for the artist and a readjustment for the violin as well.
And I think I gave it something that it will keep. So maybe it's crying too.
Actually, it's very emotional because it's in many ways an artist is always growing, and this violin allowed me to grow as a person. That's a very special connection.
After 3 years, the loan of the instrument ends. Suzanne will not be competing again. Who will be the next violinist to have the honor to play this $4 million Del Jésus? After a lifetime of preparation, they have one chance to impress a jury that will decide who will win the privilege to use these legendary instruments for 3 years.
We're ready to go.
This is their chance for the opportunity to borrow and perform on one of the world's finest musical instruments.
We're looking for two elements, really. We want to know that these players are highly accomplished players. Many of them have masters or even working on doctorates in performance.
They are extremely talented. I would say they would be the crème de la crème of Canadian young string players.
Pressure of playing at the same level for every event. My goal is to, play at the top of my level in everything I do, no matter how big or small the event is, and that's a pressure I put on myself.
The jury consists of 3 distinguished experts who know what it takes to thrive in this highly competitive field.
They have to be able to be ready to be launched onto the international stage, a complete artist.
Tout l'aspect qui est en dehors du jeu, c'est l'aspect de développer les contacts, d'agir comme son propre agent, si on veut, de parler, pas de se vendre, mais de se placer sur la carte.
Of course you don't win them all. And of course, you know, what we present to the world as our success, it doesn't mention every fall, every disappointment.
For them, this is really a big thing. And let's not forget, this is not easy. To walk out here, to have 3 people sitting here who are here to make notes and to compare you, that's a lot for young people to take on their shoulders.
Originally from Edmonton, David Eggert is currently studying at the renowned Mozarteum University of Salzburg, Austria.
I've been playing cello for so long. I can't imagine my life without it. It's part of my practicing is part of my day, as much as eating breakfast is. The thing is with this instrument, even sometimes regardless of how it sounds, just having the name of a Strad attached to you. Oh, I'm so nervous for this. There's actually a famous story about Jascha Heifetz, who's a famous violinist. Somebody came to him after the concert and said, "Oh, Mr. Heifetz, your violin sounds incredible." And he had his violin right beside him, and he picked up the violin and held it to his ear and said, "I don't hear anything."
We ask the sort of questions such as, if you're successful and you get an instrument, you're going to have this for 3 years. So where do you expect to be in 3 years, and what are you planning to do with this?
I have a few recordings, and none of them, I'm not proud of any of them, so at least proud enough to sort of give them to people.
Sorry to stop you.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't heard your recordings, but what makes you say that you're not proud of them and you released them?
What makes me not proud of them?
No, but you have to be careful to allow something that you're not proud of to be released.
Yeah, that's why I don't.
No,
I
that's
don't
why
really-
he's agreeing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just a word of caution.
Yeah, it was sort of blurred. It wasn't a disaster, but it also wasn't great either. I think I talked too much. I think I babbled a little bit too much. I'm very happy this is over. It's a big relief.
Sue Bay, the first-place cellist in the last competition, hopes to win again and hold on to the $8 million Stradivari, one of only 9 Strad cellos in the world. Audiences travel to see her and the illustrious cello wherever she performs.
When I first heard that I won first prize, this cello, I was just crying. I was like, oh my gosh! I couldn't believe it because it was like a dream come true.
Stradivari made the Bonjour cello at the age of 52 during his golden period. Strads created during this period are renowned for their dark, rich tone.
You know, I guess, they say with age comes wisdom. There's just the quality of this instrument, the sound is so diverse, and it has just a special quality only a Stradivarius can have. It's beautiful. It just sings. It's so deep. Gigantic. You know, I have a voice that I hear, an emotion that I want to display, and I hear that first in my head, and I use my cello then as a tool to bring that emotion outside to the cello. That's why I'm so grateful for this cello, because it's not only on stage, but it's when I'm home and I'm just exploring and I'm just extravagantly just expressing. That's when I feel just so alive.
Sue Bay wants to play the Stradivari Bonjour for another 3 years, but to do so is a challenge. She has to return the cello to the council and audition without it.
To give away your baby, I'm sure it's totally sad, and you don't really know how it feels until you get there. So I won't know, but you know, I know whoever has this instrument will bring joy to many people.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you. I see you have cello and all. Saying goodbyes and things?
Yes, I did. I've had my farewell to ta-da!
Ta-da! Bonjour.
Yes. I'm sad, but you know, life goes on.
Yeah, it's a turning point.
How's he look? He looks okay?
Looks fantastic.
Great.
What are you going to be using for the competition?
I don't know yet. Actually, I have a problem with that.
So,
So
I'll try a few cellos here and see if there's something.
that'd be awesome. That'd be amazing.
Okay.
Sue is in a dilemma. Her own cello is in desperate need of repair, but if she borrows another, there's very little time to get to know it.
Looking for open purflings. I've already found some open seams. I found some old cracks that are open on this beast. This one old crack here is really open. I'll glue everything up, and if she doesn't pick another cello, she's gonna have to play with this beast. It's a real hunk of junk, this thing.
The Canada Council has entrusted Rick Heinel to restore the instruments and assist in the growth and development of the Musical Instrument Bank. Rick Heinel is the fourth generation of conservators and a family that gained notoriety with his grandfather, George Heinel, who came to Canada in 1911.
I would say growing up, some of the greatest memories were the smells and the sounds. I would come down on a weekend with my father, and I could smell the varnish cooking or the glue being heated up or the sound of the planes and the chisels working. And it was clearly in my blood because it was something that I was attracted to, like a moth to a flame. Yes, there very much is a doctor-patient sort of relationship. These instruments are like a right hand to these people. They're their confidants, they're their best friends. They're, I wouldn't say lovers, but in some ways musically maybe so, but they're part of these people's lives. If you take that away, you take an appendage away, you take a child away from them.
The instruments that we're talking about, some of them fall into the category of being among some of the great instruments in the world. These particular instruments seem to have a unique blend of characteristics, a confluence.
The Italian Cremona violin makers were the true pioneers of the craft. Most famous was Antonio Stradivari, who shaped the violin as we know it today. Considered the king of instruments, Stradivari was meticulous and extremely demanding, as much with himself as with the materials he used. all in his quest for the perfect sound.
You have to think, the violin was very new to the world. It was the Amatis that, in my opinion, that really gave birth to the violin shape that we know today. But it was Stradivari that took it to a whole new level of refined art. Stradivari was clearly involved in mathematics and geometry. That became the zenith and art of making when Stradivari came along.
Due to their rarity and level of craftsmanship, his instruments garnered top dollar at auctions. Many have strived to duplicate the unique sound of a Stradivari, and even scientists have failed to decipher the secrets of the master's craft.
Strad could go to the forest and choose a tree that he wanted a tree from the outside of the forest, which had been subject to the weather and the sun and the rain and the wind and had become stronger in the core, and then put it on his roof in Cremona with a certain type of lighting and moisture and dryness, and cure it for 30 years. So it was an art. These were unbelievable masters, and their understanding, intuitive as well as scientific as well as artistic, of all of the elements that went into this. And there was a small school of them, and they all, many of them lived really close to each other.
Near the end of Stradivari's life, there came another craftsman from Cremona. Giuseppe Guarneri del Gesù experimented and pushed the boundaries of Strad's classic model. Del Gesù played with innovative designs, each violin an original with its own rich sound. Having made fewer violins than Stradivari, Del Gesù's instruments are now even more highly prized.
Those that switch from Strad to Guarneri, they also don't go back. There's a freedom with Del Gesù that you sometimes don't have on a Strad.
I do have a tendency to like the Guarneri del Gesù better because they're just really like a tank instead of like a laser.
There's always this mystique around whether it's a Stradivari or a del Gesù or whatever. But we have to constantly remember, if the person who's got it can't play,
Yes.
it means nothing.
Absolutely.
So you've got to be able to play well.
Mhm.
And not only well, but superbly, to even warrant having an instrument like this. And if you can't play superbly, then that instrument might just as well be in a glass case.
Having returned the Bonjour Stradivari, Soubé decides to play with her own cello, repaired just in time for this important audition. With only 2 cellos and 1 cello bow available in the competition, the jury members have a difficult decision to make.
So in terms of management, at the moment your management seems to be focusing on your career in the States. Do you know whether they've got connections in Europe? Because if they don't, you could always take
Yes.
the reins and
Yeah.
go for it. Because you are, as to use an expression that Uri used before, you're hot material. So it's a good time to attack the market in Europe.
The management helped me out a lot, but also the Canada Council has helped a lot in my next level, just reaching the next level, because having this amazing cello, it was such an honor. And everywhere I took this cello, it was just, Mr. Bonjour arrived, and it was just really wonderful that...
A great instrument will be one in which the limitations are always yours, not the instruments. So that's what defines a great instrument.
Dennis Brott was one of the founders of the Musical Instrument Bank. In 1987, he helped acquire the bank's first instrument, the 1706 Tekler cello.
I needed a great cello. I mean, we're talking about the early 80s. And even at that time, instruments of the kind we're talking about were selling anywhere between, certainly in the six figures, and some touching $1 million. Realizing I didn't have the money, I wrote to some 50 corporate executives and got one, why don't we meet? And that was from William Turner. But in finding Bill, who was willing to take me by the hand, which is what we did in a kind of dog and pony show, me with the cello, going to see heads of corporations.
I was the chairman of Consolidated Bathurst in those days, and it was a big paper company, and I was used to dealing with these banks. So if I called up the chairman and asked for an appointment, I usually got it. I didn't say for what reason, I just said I wanted to come see you. So I brought Dennis in with the cello, and we'd sit down, and Dennis would then burst into song. You know?
And often it was, well, look, Bill, if you think this is something good, you think this will be good for Canada, good for the country, it's worthwhile? And Bill would say, absolutely. Well, I'm putting my money on the table with it. And that's how it happened. And in 2 days, we raised $250,000.
20 years later, the Canada Council Musical Instrument Bank has grown to 14 instruments, all donated or loaned by music lovers and patrons.
When you think about it, what do we remember of past societies? We don't remember their latest business deal. We remember their art. We remember their architecture. We remember their creative genius. Those are the things that mark society, and those are the things that define the sophistication of humankind.
Marie-Ève Poupard, a 21-year-old soloist from a small town in Quebec, is a first-time competitor in this event.
C'est peut-être pas tout le monde qui veut devenir soliste, mais c'est mon cas. Puis en tant que soliste, mais même quand on fait partie d'un groupe de musique de chambre, on a à parler avec les gens, puis tout ça. Donc je trouve ça très important d'avoir qu'ils voient quelle est notre personnalité, parce que notre vie va dépendre de notre personnalité.
You seem to be enjoying yourself.
Yeah, it's why we play music.
Yeah, you smile a lot, which is nice
nice.
when you're playing.
Lovely.
Good for the audience too. So, where would you really hope to be in your career at the third year? If you get to the end of that 3 years.
Yeah.
And now you're looking for where would you?
In Europe in 3 years.
You'd like to
yeah,
live in Europe.
I will be there. I'm sure I really want to go there, and I will do everything I can.
Mainly solo.
Yeah, solo, but if the quartet is going well, maybe we will go for the quartet too, but solo first, yeah.
But you produce beautiful sounds.
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
Which is a very beautiful sound.
Thank you very much.
Which is your quality as a violinist.
Oh,
I think.
thank you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which instrument you play then. Yes.
Okay, yay!
No, you do produce a lovely sound.
Thanks, that's great to hear that.
Yeah. I'm happy.
With millions of dollars worth of instruments at stake and the competition heating up, there is no room for error.
As the days got on, it got more exciting because things kept coming, and you
You think that yes, we must have heard the best, and then suddenly, 4 more would show up and would be just amazing. We're thinking, oh gosh, we're going to have problems.
When somebody really plays well and plays really musically, you don't even think about the technique. You're not looking at that anymore. They take you away from that.
Indeed.
And you really...
Which is really the ultimate.
That's what you're looking for.
That's what you're looking for.
Are they playing at such a level that all they let you see is the music, and it's effortless?
Judy Kang is a former Instrument Bank winner. Living in Manhattan, she has performed with such diverse artists as Lady Gaga, Pierre Boulez, and the Korean Symphony. Judy began her solo career at the age of 4, and by the tender age of 17, she graduated from the Curtis Institute with a bachelor in music.
I won a violin. I won a Stradivarius the first time I did it in '97. And at that point, there were maybe 2 or 3 violins. And now it's up to 11, I just heard. I live in the States, in New York. A lot of friends that I have in New York, we love to collaborate and play in clubs and things like that. I also play with bands and stuff. I really enjoy just kind of trying out new things, exploring, and always kind of stretching my boundaries and experimenting with music and things like that. I definitely see it as natural to kind of not just limit ourselves to one genre per se.
Difficult choices, but you're showing you're showing the whole package, I think. Yeah.
But I definitely believe that there is something to be said about playing on an instrument, even like something as great as a Strad. Like it just showed me that there's just so much that you can do with something like that too. Like you're really just hitting the surface, even when you're just playing on it for the first time. It's like, wow, great, but then you're like, wow, so much. There could be so much more that could be done to it, and I noticed that even.
In the last competition, Rachel Mercer came in second. But this time around, she has her eye on the Stradivari Bonjour. Rachel is an international soloist and member of the acclaimed Aviv String Quartet.
Oh, I was pretty lucky. I have a sister, and we had a really great childhood, and our parents gave us all kinds of activities to do. Music was just another activity that we did, and it was very natural too. I started at 3 and my sister at 5, so it was kind of just a part of our upbringing, and we never had to practice. It was just an activity that we liked to do and part of our childhood, so there was never any pressure to do it. Actually, my father particularly did want me to study other things also, just because he knew how hard it is to be a professional musician, to make a living as a musician.
Min-Jon Ko is competing for the first time. Born in Korea, it has always been her dream to play one of the world's greatest violins.
Those instruments that they have at the bank, number one, like people in my financial level anyway can't afford those ever, right? So to be able to play on something like that, I feel kind of bad talking about my violin in this way.
It's okay, take
It's been, super loyal to me, but there are some things about those beautiful old instruments that, just can't be duplicated in other instruments that are, younger or from like other parts of the world. But no, it's very pretty though.
Yes, it's shiny.
Very pretty. It's shiny. You just gotta clean it.
Min is currently in residence at the Schulich School of Music at McGill University with the Cecilia String Quartet.
I feel a bit like I'm betraying my violin, and it's been very loyal to me for 10 years. And there are lots of great things about it, and it's really easy for me to play pretty on my violin, but anything besides that, it's pretty hard. Yeah.
Easy to play pretty on the violin.
Yeah. No, but then I know a lot of it is my playing too, but it cracks and it doesn't like it, and I think it's definitely a girl. It's very sensitive and it doesn't. Sorry.
After several days of auditions, the jury spends hours deliberating before making its final decisions.
There are some candidates, they started playing, and within a few bars we knew we were talking about somebody who deserved an instrument. We all knew. We only had to look at each other and we knew.
That night, representatives of the Canada Council call the winning musicians with the news that will forever change their careers.
It's Janet calling from the Canada Council. How are you? Good. I'm calling with some really great news. You have been successful in the competition, and you get to choose first. Yep, I'm not kidding.
I mean, she said I have good news for you, great news for you, and you won a prize. I said, oh, and then she said, you went first. And oh God, I still can't believe it.
J'appelle avec des bonnes nouvelles. Vous avez été retenu. Oui. Donc, c'est fantastique, n'est-ce pas?
C'est fantastique. Et ma mère a hurlé au téléphone de joie.
Oh, I bet it is. Her heart's beating really hard.
Since Rachel came in first, she comes to Heinel's to pick up the cello she dreamed of playing, the Bonjour Stradivari.
It feels alive at the moment, and I don't know what I'm doing with it.
Unfortunately, Sue Bay and David Eggert did not win the loan of a cello this time around. Neither did Si-Do Park.
I'm happy that I tried for this, and I was very, very happy to be given this chance to compete in this competition. I mean, it could have been happier news, but I'll be back in 3 years, and hopefully, I'll get it then. Yeah.
Rachel's friend Judy Kang has also come in first in the violin category, and is faced with the challenge of choosing between a Strad and a Del Gesù.
Warm. I find that has a very sizzling kind of quality to it, and this is definitely, I mean, it's bassy and big, but
You've got more cushion, more dimension to carve in. Let's hear this. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
You can't have them both, girl. No pressure, you have 5 more minutes. Oh, sure. It's difficult for these young people. It's like handing them 3 different Ferraris and saying, pick the one that you're going to win a race in, you know? They've never been in a Ferrari before.
Can I just hear, Karen, can I just hear you play this? No. Quickly, just, I want to hear it for myself. Actually, no, I'm happy.
Look at this kid dancing up and down.
Well, it's very exciting for these young musicians to have the opportunity to play on a fine old Italian instrument. These musicians are very deserving of them, and hopefully it'll help out their careers, although in Canada it's very difficult to make a career as a classical musician. There's only 1,200 jobs in orchestras across Canada for classical musicians, period. And the remuneration is not that great either. They study their whole lives, and they don't make what a plumber makes.
She hasn't chosen yet. She's trying to decide.
What have you chosen? The Stradivarius Baumgartner. So it's the one I actually played on for the last 3 years. It just really feels like it just as a part of me, really.
Marie-Ève Poupart has made it to second place and takes her time listening to each instrument. The other competitors wait anxiously, as every choice affects the pool of available instruments.
She very wisely did a blind test. Someone handed her the instrument. She did not know what instrument she had in her hands. She didn't know if it was worth $5 million or $500,000 or whatever, or who made it. And she chose based upon the symbiosis between her soul and ears and body relationship to the instrument, how it made her sound, how it inspired her, and what she felt she could get out of it. She felt very pressured at the time. I remember her calling me, and I remember saying to her that she had to follow her gut, that this was an intuitive process. She chose a Tononi, which was not at all the most expensive of the instruments in the bank. And she had the choice of any of them. I admire her very much for her courage in doing what she did, and she took a lot of flack for it. And a lot of people questioned the wisdom of her choice.
Nicky Thuy has had his eye on the Del Gesù from the beginning. He cannot believe his luck. The much sought-after violin is still available.
I've got the Del Gesù. Yes.
C'est fou, là. J'avais le choix entre un violon Del Gesù de 4 millions de dollars, puis le violon que j'ai qui est juste de 175 000. Mais il y a une énorme différence entre les deux. Mais quand on a la chance de peut-être avoir un Del Gesù, on veut...
Ce choix-là?
Parce que l'autre, il me convenait mieux. J'avais l'impression que pour moi, pour le son, pour jouer dessus, en fait, son est plus clair. J'avais l'impression dans mon oreille qu'il projetait plus, puis qu'il y avait un son plus clair. J'étais pas triste de prendre ce violon-là parce que c'est vraiment mon choix, puis je vais être heureuse avec, je crois, mais c'est que ça fait... Depuis que je veux faire l'audition que je rêve au Del Gesù, donc ça fait drôle de pas le prendre.
The violins and cellos are now in the hands of their new owners. Over the next 3 years, these dedicated musicians will share these magnificent instruments with audiences around the world.
Passion. If you are passionate about music, if you believe it to be your inner voice, if it becomes something so important to you that living without it makes you incomplete as a human being. We all are expressive entities. We all feel, and our feelings are real to us. To be able to use the instrument, mastering the mechanical as a vehicle of that expression. so if a person has the ability to communicate that emotive process, inspire it in others, elicit a response, they become a compelling performer.